Greetings guys and gals, my name is Thad and welcome to another chess video. In this video I will show you 3 very fast checkmate sequences that can occur if one of the players isn't that concentrated. And we are starting off with perhaps the most prominent or the most famous of the fast checkmates, the so-called fool's mate. Now basically every chess player should know this mate by heart, as it is very easy. First of all, it begins with probably the worst move that you can play in the opening as white. It begins with f3 and then just black, develops with e5, and if white is, foolish enough, that's why it's called a fool's mate, is foolish enough to play g4, then black just has to play h4, and that is basically it, the fool's mate. You can see the king can't go anywhere, nothing can block the queen. That is in fact the fastest checkmate in chess, the so-called fool's mate. The second mate I want to show you is the so-called scholar's mate, and I hate to admit it, but I fell for this mate quite a lot of times actually during blitz and bullet, because when you're not concentrated, this mate can happen very easily, even if you don't play something as silly as f3. So even if you start normally, let's say e4, e5, and then already white gets his bishop out with c4, and what you have to see is that this bishop is actually eyeing the f7 pawn, so you have to be a little bit careful there, because I will show you what happens when you don't pay attention. Let's say knight c6, queen f3, and what you have to see now is that this is in fact a mating attack, as this pawn is attacked twice and the king can't move anywhere. And if you don't see that, let's say you just play d6, think you'll continue developing and think that everything is fine, you will see that in fact not everything is fine, as the queen just comes to f7, and this is this is the scholar's mate. As you can see, the king cannot capture the queen, as the queen is protected by the bishop, and also the king has no more squares to move. So this is the scholar's mate. I fell for it a couple of times actually, I hate to admit it, but that's the way it is. If you don't properly concentrate, that is probably the most vicious of the fast mates, if you ask me. So the third fast checkmate is actually the longest of the sequences, but I would still consider it quite a fast checkmate, and let's call it the Caro Kann checkmate, as it arises from the Caro Kann defense. Then again, you could also call it Caro Kann crusher, because it is basically a way to crush the Caro Kann defense if the player with the black pieces doesn't know exactly what he's doing. So we have e4, then we have c6, which is of course the Caro Kann defense. White just continues developing, c3, d5, this is all very standard, and now d4, this could arise from any game, if the Caro Kann defense is played, that then black can capture on e4, and then white just plays knight e4. This is a very good position, and now follows this very weird move. I've already marked it for some reason, and this move just looks very sketchy. Again, it's just the Caro Kann player doesn't know what he's doing. The problem with the Caro Kann defense is that this square is occupied by the pawns, so this knight can't get out. So there probably are a few players that want to force the knight out, and they try this with d7, and I think d7 is just a very sketchy move, but let's just keep it at that. Now white can actually reply with e2, and e2 is a very dangerous move for black, but black needs to realize this. And what black needs to realize here is that yes, all of these pieces are protected, but also the king cannot move, so the king has no more spaces to go. So if he is threatened, that could be a problem. And indeed, if black plays something, let's say he wants to attack this knight and plays knight f6 to attack the knight, then he's going to run into a very beautiful checkmate. I'm sure most of you can already see it. It is of course knight d6, and knight d6 is a beautiful checkmate. I've never seen it in action, even though I've played the Caro Kann defense a lot, especially as a beginner, but luckily enough I never ran into that checkmate. As you can see, the king cannot go anymore, he cannot move anywhere, he cannot move away from the knights. You can't capture the knight because the queen is still there. So that is indeed a very vicious checkmate, and I would consider it quite a fast checkmate, and I would name it the Caro Kann crusher, because you can try to play e2. If your opponent knows that checkmate, of course he will know how to avoid it. Just don't get that knight out, just play something like e6, and of course this checkmate is completely avoided, because now with knight d6 then you can just capture the knight and everything is completely fine here. But again, if you want to test your opponent and see how really versed he is in the Caro Kann defense, you can play e2 and just hope that your opponent makes a mistake, gets a little bit greedy, attacks your knight, and then you can give him this, you can deliver this beautiful checkmate. So anyway, those were 3 very fast checkmates. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like. Maybe I see you next time. Until then, have a nice day, have a nice night, and of course, as always, have a nice time.